once again with Connor Talks Games, your one-stop shop for all things that is currently happening inside of games. Yes, I said shop because today we're going to be shopping for games to talk about. And I believe I got a very nice lineup here today. Got some questions I picked out from the roster. And of course, we got a couple of things to kind of go along with that as far as talking points are concerned. But without further ado, I believe let's get right into it. So, first things first, let's talk about what yours truly has been up to. I've been getting really into Night Rain with all these new Everdark Sovereign bosses coming out recently. It's been an absolute blast. I've gotten absolutely eviscerated by Everdark Adele. She is a I tell you, as a old pro wrestling fan or amateur wrestling, whatever we call it, going into a steel cage match with what is the equivalent of Undertaker and freaking Kane putting on the slam with the Tombstone Piledriver did not help me in the slightest. I'm saying this as a Raider man, and let me tell you something. Oh boy, it gets worse if you play a squishy and you can't dodge efficiently. But Adele has always, in my opinion, been one of the most difficult bosses to do out of all the normal ones. They're just that damn annoying to do. But I digress. So I've been doing a little bit of that. Recently, I've been playing a bit of Bioshock 2 as well. Got to get back into that. All things considered, it's looking pretty good, I'd say. No issues as far as that is concerned. I'm playing it on hard difficulty, and as you know, I haven't played Bioshock at, how many years? Sheesh, last time I booted that game up, it was on my Xbox. I don't even really want to get into the considerations of what happens when you try to play a game on the hardest difficulty and you completely forget that you're not used to playing it on mouse and keyboard because you played it on freaking controller. But it be what it be. Other than that, can't really complain too much. Summer's been pretty active. I've been doing my thing, doing the funny little program over at Project Cyclone, helping out all the interns, and obviously trying not to go insane from being a producer. And let me tell you something for my audience who have been listening to me for so long now. Yes, yes. It is in fact it's Eddie. For those of our newer listeners who are not familiar, your old boy here, Connor, used to be a part of the Berkshire Talking Chronicle for roughly around a month and a half, and we got a very solid following that has decided to follow over here, although it's good to see that the email is still receiving so many questions even after such a long hiatus. Apologies for that, but production takes time and all that smooth jazz, but hey, it only takes me like actually interesting talking points and whatever else to really get into this. So, what do we want to talk about as far as the meat of today is concerned? Actually, I wanted to talk a little bit about Souls-like games, or Soulsborne adjacent, predominantly because I've actually recently got into it, a bit more, so a bit of background. I didn't really have the biggest background in Souls games. The biggest I think I had was Elden Ring. That was the only one that I've beaten to my knowledge. We're not going to include Night Rain in this conversation because that's kind of like its own beast. But I did a bit of Elden Ring, and then it's pretty fun. Before that though, my buddy got me Dark Souls 3, and he wanted to play that with me. So I took about like 2 hours into it, and I'm like, this is all right. And then I died, promptly fell off the face of the earth, and then Bloodborne showed up. And Bloodborne is probably my favorite out of all of them. Still haven't beaten it, but PlayStation is expensive, and unfortunately, I am an Xbox boy. So hopefully, when I start getting paid for this radio show gig, please, boss, I'm begging you, maybe we'll actually start seeing some dividends on that. But I digress. So recently, at the behest of my friend, the two guys who are really big proprietors of it, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, why not? I'll boot up Dark Souls 3 and I'll kind of do it a little bit. So, I usually, when I play Souls games, I always like to get a little bit of the strength going. I'm a big strength guy. I'm just gonna take a sip of my Baja Blast here real quick. That's some good Mountain Dew right there, I tell you what. But usually I like my strength build. In Elden Ring, for instance, I ran specifically the big ultra great sword that Guts uses because, why would you use anything else? Never took it off me, never compensated, never used anything else. That was my weapon, and that's why I used it. Because I don't use literally anything in that game except for Big Bonk Stick. Because I'm stupid, and I don't know anything else. But hitting things with a really big stick is highly effective, but I wanted to be a bit refined in my approach going into Dark Souls 3. I sat down for the longest time. I mean, about 5 seconds. And I go to my friend and I say, you know, we got to do the exact opposite of strength build. We got to do a dex build. Because dex, you're using the fast weapon. You're a weeb. You got the katana. All of that. So, I boot into the game. I pick wench or wretch, whatever the name is. Naked guy with the club and the funny shield, just because I like pain and Dark Souls go burr. So we get going. I fight Gundyr again, and I'm like, hey, Gundyr's Gundyr. There's not really much to say about their intro boss. You hit him a couple times, he stops moving. Did struggle on him for too long, and then we moved over to the Firelink Shrine, and that's when I recall the naked sword guy on the left waiting for me. Now, once again, I haven't played the game in years, and I think I only ever, touched it once for, 2 seconds. Let me tell you something. There is nothing more terrifying than seeing a naked guy running at you with a katana. I mean, the guy wasn't wearing shoes, he was wearing rags, and he was coming at me, and I was quite frankly terrified. So I did the only thing I knew how to do. I started hitting him. A lot. And let me tell you, he parried me quite a bit. He reposted, he slapped my booty back to the freaking Farum Missoula. Yeah, he slapped me so hard into another Souls game. But I'm like, listen, it's a Souls game, you can't get mad. Keep in mind, I was streaming this to my buddies the whole time, and they were laughing their asses off, rightfully so, because you're watching a guy who barely plays the game get his ass pushed in by another homeless guy. So, we continued on regardless. After a little bit of footsies and moving around, I managed to successfully knock him off of the ledge, which was, I mean, I would have wished to kill him the old-fashioned way with the bonk stick, but hey, I'll take what I can get. So I pick up the weapon, and it's got a nice little parry feature. All right, that's pretty nice. Let me take another sip of my soda here. So, what did we do? Well, I'll tell you what we did. We loaded into the next area, the high-rise or whatever, the big old castle overlook, and we got to work. So, first things first, as it turns out, dragons are really loud. I went down the pathway to the left, and I got lit up. Burnt to a crisp. Friend said to shoot the dragon. Once I got out the other side, I shot him. Guy looked to his left, and he burnt me alive. That makes sense, considering, well, dragons burn. People burn when they are lit. A little Fate reference right there. For those of you who do or do not know, that's a very inside joke. I forgot to mention that I've been playing through FGO, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Anyways, back to the Souls grind. So, a couple deaths later, go around, and then I go to there's this old lady, and she says, take this banner. And I'm like, oh, alright. I took the banner. And then my friend's like, kill her. I'm like, are you sure about that? He's like, yeah, kill her. So I kill her. And I'm like, alright, lit. What's happening next? And then Dancer of Boreal Valley shows up. Now, a bit of context. I played Night Rain before this, and, she appears in the game, and, she does her thing. That game did not do her justice. No, it did not. And this was only Phase 1 Dancer we're talking about. She slapped me so many times, it wasn't even funny. But, I digress. It was, regardless, very funny indeed. So, she fucked me up quite a bit. I'm like, alright, whatever. Move on. So, I go across the street, and I'm about to touch this tree. And this guy called Vort shows up. Now, a couple things about Voldemort here. For starters, he's actually apparently a really easy boss. That was not the case for me. I want everybody who is currently listening to this call, or rather this radio broadcast, you're on a podcast, Connor. You gotta understand podcast terminology. Any guy in America can have a podcast, but you're choosing to listening to this. At least I got an international listener base. Ha ha! Take that, Dad. Anyway, as you probably do or do not know, Vort, he's not like the worst guy in the world if you're anybody but me. So he does a thing where he gets in your face, and you know, a lot of telegraphed attacks. But I don't know why. But for the life of me, I just could not put this guy down. It took me about 8 tries to finally do it. And I told my friend, like, hey, you know, you're a pretty hard boss. And he goes, I have never in my entire life of playing Dark Souls have ever heard somebody say it was hard. So that I'm a first for that. I suck at the game, but hey, I had fun. I can understand why you guys and gals play this game because it turns you to a masochist, and I gotta say, I'm all for it. I know, technically speaking, I'm not no longer a part of Berkshire Talking Chronicle, and I could say naughty things like that, but please, for the love of all that is holy, delete that from the censor banks. You didn't hear anything. Anyhow, so we put old Vort into the ground, and then that's when it really started clicking for me, I want to say, as far as Dark Souls 3 is concerned, because, you know, it's very satisfying to beat a boss that you've been stuck on for a wee bit. You know, it took me a couple of goes. So, we get through him, and then we go to the Poison Swamp, and that's when I learned how Miyazaki was famous for the swamps of poison. Poison in Dark Souls 3 isn't as bad as I thought it would be, but I don't like constant tick damage while I am merely trying to get from point A to point B. So that didn't help too much. Now, as far as all of that is concerned, I will say, it was a rather fun time, because I got to fight a funny wraith. What are they called? They're like the really edgy, black armored Cairn wraiths, however you say that. Yeah, no. They messed me up. And then I upset my friend who was watching me because I got their helmet on the first drop, and I think it was the Black Tongue. Something like that, but yeah, whatever. So also, a bit of context as well, now that we're kind of getting into some of the juicier bosses. My knowledge about Dark Souls 3 only extends to, like, a couple of bosses. So I knew that Abyss Watchers were up next, but I did not know about Crystal Sage, or the big witch in the woods who you gotta, like, defeat for some good stuff. I ran to her. She put me in the ground a couple of times. And then I'm like, you know what? I want to go fight Abyss Watchers. So that's what I did. I ran up to Abyss Watchers, and they, oh my god, pushed me in is an understatement. I don't know why. I don't. Legitimately, to this day, I don't know why. But something about the dagger attack has thrown me for a loop so much. And this was before we even got to second phase. Now, my friend, once again, who was watching, said, you know, it's best to give, like, a second when the second one gets up and just play it defensively. And then once the third guy gets up, you know, let them wail on each other for the free damage and kind of just go from there. So, before we kind of continued the next night, I put the Crystal Witch in the ground. And I wasn't playing Magic, so we didn't really care too much about the burst attack or any of that. We only care about Dex katanas. So, still using the katana I got from the homeless guy. Put her in the ground, go back to the Abyss Watchers. So, I actually surprisingly ended up finally beating the first phase, and I was very proud of myself. It was a great moment. And then, couple freaking seconds later, Big Daddy wakes up, and that's when everything goes to hell. So, couple things for the uninitiated once again. Abyss Watchers in Phase 1, it's fairly straightforward. It's nothing special. It's just they got some attack combos, and you know, the trick is to just kind of get around them and hit them with the backstab. It took me a couple of tries to start kind of getting it somewhat consistently, but even then I wasn't able to do it. In a couple seconds, a second guy spawns in. He's aggro to you, but if you give it another couple seconds, a third guy will spawn in Phase 1 who will target the main guy. So I typically like to get some hits in the first phase, let the second guy spawn, kind of give it a little bit, wait for the third guy to spawn, let the third guy attack whoever, and then I put the second guy down, at least for a couple of seconds, get some stabs in on the first guy, vice versa. So once the second phase starts, this is the fun part. I hope you like fire, because there's a lot of fire, and let me tell you something. Oh boy, do they love fire. So every aside from a couple of new combos and attacks and all kinds of fun jazz, one of the things that spawns in is a fire afterburn. So like when he slaps, wait a couple seconds and then the fire kind of streaks out. That messed me up a lot. A lot. And I still panic roll against it. So I think it took me around 18 to 20-ish attempts on that boss. I kept using embers and whatnot just to kind of get my health up, but thankfully I wasn't invaded, but now I'm low on embers. Oh, right, the weapons, right. So I know there are a lot of cool weapons, and I got his the great sword with the hook knife combo because I thought that was really cool. Now apparently it sucks in PvP, but breakdancing is very cool. So I digress. But yeah, that's kind of just been my typical experience with Dark Souls 3 so far. Apparently I have to go somewhere down in the deep, according to the funny guy. So I'll probably be doing that at some point. But I destroyed my first heir of flame, which is great. I put his head on the pedestal. But I will say, that crap is hard. It is a hard game. Hard game indeed. And I haven't even gotten to the other guys yet. That's just the freaking first one. But hey, if I can beat Elden Ring, I'm pretty sure I could beat Dark Souls 3. I think. Maybe. But I find the Souls players to be a very interesting bunch because they, it creates this very interesting interaction where you know they're masochists, they just don't want to openly admit it, or they do admit it, but they play that game, so that's how it is. I guess I'm slowly starting to get turned into one as well, but we'll see what happens, all things considered. But, I can really appreciate, those games in general because they have... Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of having to read every single little nitty-gritty, piece of armor for all the lore, but the world itself is pretty interesting, I would say. There's parts to it that are kind of neat. My buddy tried showing me some Demon Souls, and that didn't quite hit it as hard for me as I guess the Souls, Dark Souls. But man, he showed me a vid on, I believe it was Dark Souls 1, and the plot of that can basically be summarized as these two horse goat looking guys made bets about you'll do this, no, nah, you'll do this. So that's pretty damn funny, to me at least. But, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? That's really all there is to it. But yeah, no, that's kind of like my unhinged rant as far as Souls are concerned. It's a very unique bunch, and I think at the end of the day, you know, you can't help but respect the amount of tenacity that it takes to play a game that will consistently cause you to die and you gotta repeat. Man, I played, I believe it was Vanquish on hardest difficulty, and I thought that was difficult. I mean, it is difficult, but I mean, Souls, it's like a marathon. You know, you gotta patience, you gotta pay attention to what you can and cannot do. But there are so many ways to approach a boss, so many ways to do something. It's the build crafting can definitely get pretty out of hand. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it, and I'm very excited to see about probably beating it if I ever do get around to beating it. But there are a lot of games on play right now, so we'll see what happens. Oh, right. Okay, I'm just gonna talk a little bit about this next point because I think it's a perfect example of a good story locked behind pretty awful everything else. So I don't know how many of you are familiar, but old Connor here plays a couple of gachas. We play Honkai Star Rails, Endless Zone Zero, and recently we've gotten more into Fate Grand Order. Now, I have beaten all the singularities and the pseudo-singularities, and I gotta say, Fate Grand Order is what I like to call, it has an absolutely great story. Like, legitimately, once I got past Camelot, which I would say was a great warm-up to the good story, Babylonia, it fell into place. and then we went to Solomon, then we did the pseudo-singularities, and those are pretty good, and then we got to the Lost Belts. I'm currently on Lost Belt 3, I haven't started it yet, but I got through 1. Lost Belt 1 was je ne sais quoi. I'm telling you right now, we should have killed Kadok, should have put him in the ground beforehand. I am not a fan of when we don't put bad master into the ground. The guy casually proceeded to destroy all of humanity. You know what we get from humanity, and he went and took it from me? That's right, pizza, Warhammer 40,000 models, freaking posters with really cool things on it. How is my White Dwarf subscription going to get delivered to me now when the entire damn world has been reduced to fine ash and that? I'm telling you, put me for president. I'm staring at my Kafka hoodie right now and it's incredibly cheap. I diverse. Anyways, back on topic. Jesus. Yeah, nah, I can't in good faith recommend the game unless you're willing to sit down and just get through the mid that is the original singularities, at least up until Camelot, because then the game gets really good. But, you know, the issue is there's really nothing else going for the game. Polling is going to be fun no matter the gotcha. I don't really have an issue with the polling, but the pity system is... Oh... Oh, man. Oh, man. My buddy was telling me a horror story about it, Blue, looking at you. Poor guy spent so much, he didn't even get the character he wanted before it had the hard pity system. Boah. But I digress. Like, Christ. The gameplay isn't really anything to write home about. You gotta farm at some point just to get decent stuff. I mean, hell, I still don't have Lancelot. I still do not have 4-star Berserker Lancelot, and my life sucks because I don't have him. He's my favorite freaking Fate servant. I have him. I used him in extolling. The second I got him from the guy, I think it was like day 3 or something, the third option. You can't use him, unfortunately, on your first playthrough. If you unlock him by then, you can only do it on your subsequent ones. But once I unlocked him for that, I never took him off. I was so proud of him when he said Arthur. Alright, so we're actually starting to come up to time here a little bit, so I will start to kinda divulge into the questions. Alright, so we don't have many this week. It's not very long or arduous one, but I wanted to have some minutes. So, what games are you currently playing? Well, aside from the aforementioned BioShock, Night Rain, and some other things, I've been trying to pick up Scarlet Nexus, excuse me. As per usual, Monster Hunter. I actually finished my Tyranny playthrough not that long ago, so that was pretty good. Let's see. Oh, right. I've been playing on my Switch a little bit, and we've been doing some Gunvolt. I got the Rhythm game, actually, the imported one on the right, staring at me in my pile of books and whatnot, but yeah, you know, fun stuff. This is actually a good question. Is the internship program still open and can I apply? Project Cyclone Productions, in my opinion, will never turn down an individual as long as we can find a way to properly slot you in. So please, feel free to apply through the main website or get in contact with one of the emails, myself included. As you know, I am a producer on the games half. I run that detachment, so if you are interested or have somebody who's interested, please have them send an email through and we can definitely get in contact. This one I kind of answered myself, but have you played Elden Ring Night Rain, and if so, what is your favorite boss? Fulgor, hands down, it's gotta be Fulgor. I loved his Everdark version, and quite frankly, I just loved throwing hands with a guy whose main gimmick, in my opinion, it's so funny, is he gets that arm, like a full arm, and he phase changes to getting his old arm back, and that was scary as crap. But yeah. What is your favorite 40k model kit? Ugh, Christ. So many good ones. But if I had to think off the top of my head, Death Company, specifically the old one, I really liked how they looked and all the bits and bobs you could put on it. Now, 5, this question was frequently asked quite a bit, but because we are on the new show, I figured it's good to answer it. How do you get into the games industry proper? Well, There are a lot of ways to do that, but personally, and this is the one I'm always going to say, start making games. No matter how small, how big, whatever. Just make something for people to play. Get a team together. Get like-minded individuals. Start small. You know what my original game I made was? It was a crappy uh what's the term? The little flipper thing. Ah, whatever. It was ping pong. Right. It was a really crappy ping pong game for my Unity development class when I was still attending college. And it wasn't great. In fact, it was quite ass. But I made a game, and I didn't think it was awful. But research, obviously, networking. I'm gonna be frank here. Just don't even bother with sending in your traditional applications unless you know somebody or you're absolutely ready for it. I've been in the grind for about a year now, and I still keep getting ghosted when it comes to trying to put out for a normal job application. But it's just having calm patience and doing what you can is the best that you can kind of do for it. But anyway, this has been episode 2, Connor Talks Games. I appreciate all of you who have listened, and I hope to see you all on the next show.